Hello, this is Dylan, the creator and primary maintainer of Ticket Auction Manager, a program for managing Chinese auctions, penny socials, whatever you want to call them. Essentially, events for people to buy tickets and put a certain amount of tickets in a basket for each item. And those are drawn by hand and then also entered into the system. And the system that I made allows it to relate the ticket number to the ticket buyer a lot easier, and it generates reports based on the person's last name, and it allows you to also view by basket number, and now also keeps counts of how many tickets sold for each category. So this is a diagram of how things are usually set up, so you can actually use spare components. So just old computers you have laying around, maybe they're not new enough to run Windows 11, you can install Linux Mint on them, use them as clients. You can use one of them as a server. They all just gotta be within the same network for things to work best. It is a little slow when you try to use it over the internet. But like, yeah, you can have these computers just connected to a spare router, like an old gaming router or something you have sitting in your closet. Take it out, you can use it for an event like this, and all of these computers are just connect to the LAN ports or the wireless. You do want a static IP on the server though, so if you can figure out how to get into your router and set a static IP for the server, that would be preferred, because then your clients won't get messed up, and when the server changes you'd have to re-input the new server IP if that IP does change into each client. On the server side, if I do have a dedicated server computer, I usually run Debian on it. You can download it at debian.org, and there are guides and stuff. So there's documentation on how to set Debian up. You do want to set it up with an SSH server, so then you can use something graphical like this, because when you install a graphical user environment, it is more overhead. So if you don't have a lot of resources on the spare server computer, uh, it's best to just install command line, like uncheck all the graphical stuff. But you do want an SSH server so you can SSH into it. Then you do need to install Docker. I usually install Docker Engine because if it doesn't have a graphical user interface on the server anyway, there's no need for Docker Desktop, because again it's more overhead, more space that's being used up on the server, and why use it if you don't need it. So if you have a different distribution of choice, you can also find it on here. You just need to follow this guide. If you've never had Docker installed before, you don't have to do the uninstall old versions. And then you just, every one of these commands here, you just copy and paste them into your SSH window. So for this one, it's all these lines here is the same command. You do want to pay attention to these, so if you are installing on Linux Mint, you would use the Ubuntu guide, and when you get down to this part, you have to change this to Ubuntu, for instance. So you do want to pay attention to that if you are installing it on one of your Linux Mint endpoints. I do have another Windows version coming. There's always snags usually that I hit when I go to compile into Windows. So pretty soon here I should have a Windows version though, once I get over the couple of snags I hit so far for this version. But on my GitHub page for Ticket Auction Manager, I usually try to keep things organized into releases. Every major set of changes I make to the program, I try to make a release for it. So for instance, I'm redoing this video because I made major changes in how you install the server version, or the server part of it. So that's all on the release page for this release. So next I'll SSH into the server. So if you've never SSH'd into a computer before, you would type SSH into your console and your username that you set up when you set up the computer, and the @ sign, and then the IP address. And if you don't know what the IP address is, you just gotta log into the server physically and do a IP space ADDR, and that lists IP addresses. And then you'll look for one that says EMP or ETH or WLAN. That would be one of your physical adapters, and it's under iNet here. So if I were SSH into the computer I'm on right now, I would use those numbers I have highlighted right there, and that's the IP address. Since I'm already on this computer, I need to set this up on a server, so I'm going to SSH into my server. I have it aliased already, so that'll SSH into it, and this is what it looks like when you SSH, so it tells you, like, essentially a banner for the server. And then I'm going to do sudo, that means super user do -s, that's going to spawn a shell, and use my sudo password for that user. And now I'm going to cd, that's change directories. Since I already created a directory for my Docker Compose stack, since I already have other Docker Compose stacks on this server, I'm just going to cd into that. If you don't already have a directory, which I usually do create a root level directory for that, unless it's an immutable distro, then I would use I would create a subdirectory under /var. But like I usually just do DC stacks because that's Docker Compose. So if you need to make a directory on the root level for this, and you anticipate having other Docker Compose stacks, you can do a make dir and -p that creates parent directories. / is a root of the drive, and you can do something like DC stacks and the name of the folder you want to use for that event, or if you only plan on having one instance of a ticket auction manager at a time, then you can just do something like TAM or do a single directory. Then change directory into TAM, or like if you just did that, you would do /DC stacks and /TAM. That will cd right into that. I'm going to clear it again, clear the screen again. Then from here, that's why I went to this releases page. Since I'm not on the same thing as this computer, or I'm not in the same graphical user environment as my server computer, so I have to get this through the SSH. The easiest way to do that is just use wget. So I'm going to right click and copy link. I'm going to use wget -O, and then we're going to name this tam-server, and .tar.gz, and then I'm going to do space, then Control-Shift-V. That's going to paste the plain text. That'll download it. Now if I do ls, which just lists your files, -l, you can see that this is in here, and it's around the same size as this here. And that's the size right there. So now I'll just gotta extract it. So how you extract on the command line is using the tar command. So tar space X for extract, V for verbose, that just tells you what files it's pulling out, and Z for gzip, and F for file, and we'll do the TAM server. I'm just using tab for autocomplete, and that's going to extract it. And if you want to clean it up, you can do RM, that just stands for remove, then TAM server. if you're a beginner, I'd recommend that you just use the Nano text editor, since it is more like a graphical user interface style text editor. So Nano, N-A-N-O, space, then .env. That will allow you to edit this env file. For the DB password, I'd recommend just putting something in, like just punch in some random words, letters, whatnot. Then API password after this equal sign. This is a password that will be required for clients to generate an API key to be able to talk to the server. If they don't generate an API key, if this API password is specified, then the server won't let the clients talk. So this is to just prevent random people from showing up at your event site and connecting their own computer and working in some closet somewhere and somehow sabotaging your event. You don't want that. So put anything into there. I would recommend making it more secure than 1, 2, 3, 4, and just using that as an example. Control X, that was specified down here. So you can see Control X is exit. So the up arrow is control. So I'll press and hold control, then press X. Then I'll press Y, and I'm just going to press enter here. So that sets up the env file for the project. So now you can tell that the script, the create script server, or the create server script, is executable. If it's not, if it doesn't have these X's, you can do chmod space plus X, and then create server, and that will make it executable. So to use a create server script, you just do /create server .sh and press enter. And it's going to pull what it needs. It's going to prompt you for the stuff it needs to generate the cert. Then it's going to start everything. It has to wait until the database gets into a healthy state before it can start the rest of the stack. Now everything should be going for it, so we're now going to download the client and then get the client started here. I already have it extracted, it looks like. Forgot to clean out my downloads folder. Then it's once you get it extracted, you can use a graphical user interface to extract your client since it's available. You need a graphical user interface anyway, so you can open up your file roller or whatever you're using, and you can extract, and just specify the folder you need to extract the files into. Then you just should be able to just double click the TAM client, and it should open up. By default, it should say unable to connect unless you're running it on the same computer. Then it'll connect plain text by default. Plain text will be on port 8000, so you just, if you wanted to use plain text, you just literally change localhost to your server's IP address. But I'm going to show you how to do it the right way, the secure way. So we're going to do https / the IP of your server that you're using, :8443. Then we're going to give that a trailing /2. Then the API password we set up before, and then generate API key. Once that's successful, it'll say API key generated and appended to save. So then all you gotta do is save, close, and reopen it. It should change to this green connected down here. You can click settings. Also on the settings you have theme. Cosmo is your light theme. Cyborg is your dark theme. So for those of you who prefer light themes, you can change it to Cosmo, and that's a light theme. So now I'm going to click Prefix Manager in the settings. And over here on the Prefix Manager, I'm going to create a prefix or two. The boot style shows what buttons there are. So if these are going to be like your white tickets, you could use light. Then we'll do add or update and specialty. And let's say these are blue tickets, so we'll use a primary button color, and I'll change the sort order to make sure that falls in under the regular one. That defies the automatic alphabetical sorting. So we're going to close and reopen again. Now it should have your regular and your specialty. Now if you are using the secure, since it's a self-signed cert, it will come up with this security risk. If you just want to bypass it temporarily, you can click advance and accept the risk and continue. But a lot of modern web browsers have a way to permanently do it. So I'm going to open up the hamburger menu here and settings. I'm just going to do search for a certificate. Then view certificates. I have an old entry here. I'm going to delete that because I don't need that. And add exception. So I'm going to add 10.69.10.1, that's my server's IP, :8443, and trailing slash, because why not, and then get certificate. If you click view, it should match your the values you put in earlier there. Then permanently store this exception, make sure that's checked, and then confirm security exception. So now if you open up your different reports, it shouldn't come up with that prompt. And you can do that across all your client computers, so then if you're having other people enter information, run reports and stuff, they don't get confused when they see that self-signed certificate warning there. You don't have to do this part, but I'm just going to test it for the video. So the first number in range, the last number in range. So for instance, these would be like pages. So you just enter the first number that you see on page and the last number that you see on the page, and then it should show you the same numbers that you see. So if you're doing physically filled out papers, you can easily go through them more easily go through them that way. Oops. On the preference, you just gotta highlight it. You can hit T for text or C for call. You can either manually click save, or allow the operations will automatically save. So if I go down one and enter a name, if I just go down one, I can it'll automatically save for most things. I think the only thing that's not covered by the automatic save right now, I gotta figure out how to do it sometime, is closing out of the window. So if you make a mistake, like oops, like Bob Dole actually bought down to 1005, you can copy this one down to 1006 and just go up to the Bob Dole one and take care of it that way. famous YouTubers, because why not? So Alt-N as in next goes to the next page. Alt-B, since it's right next to N, goes to the previous page. If for some reason you need to copy and paste, you can use, oops, I'll just do that. You can use like Alt-C, so you can Alt-C and then go up, and Alt-V, and then that'll paste. So that's one way you can copy and paste. And oh yeah, another thing I forgot to point out, yes, it does change the boxes, or the buttons, when you do change your prefixes. So that's one easy way to differentiate what prefix you're working in. You can edit baskets much the same way. I'll just go 1 to 20. And you can use the same shortcut keys too. If you don't have enough time to enter baskets, no worries, you can go straight to the drawing form, and that'll create baskets as well. I'm just going to use a random function to put a few in. One to keep in mind, if you're going down through, you can just use Alt-L to go down to the next one. But if you just wanted to clear out that field, once you go Alt-L, because sometimes it can be weird if you're entering tickets, you're down here, and it puts it after the 0, and if you put in numbers there, it'll have issues with if there's a leading 0 sometimes, so yeah, it's like it won't let you leave. So one thing you can do is, if it has a leading 0, you can of course remove it, and then it'll let you go down. Or instead of trying to backspace or delete, you can press Alt-M, as in move or whatever. I just did it because it's right in the same area. That'll just completely wipe the field. Then you can you can put in the number that you really wanted for that. So that just makes it a little easier to enter ticket numbers. So I'll just put a few in just to show that yes, you can do reports by name, we'll sort them by name, then phone number if the names match, and then basket number if the name and the phone number matches. So this is for both. You can also use text and call to do different reports based on who prefers what. Or you can also do by basket number as well. So that is essentially Ticket Auction Manager, how to set it up in a nutshell.